like that's much. You got it all. No, he was.
Which one? Wednesday. Wednesday, cerebellum.
Diencephalon cerebrum.
Say it one more time.
Diencephalon and cerebrum.
Yeah.
Sorry, my handwriting isn't the best. I tried.
Thank you.
I just put this together right before I left my other job. So if I'm missing information, I apologize. This was just like me trying to figure out the best way to teach you guys how and where it all fits. So I think I got it, but if I didn't, don't kill me. Just add to it.
It's E5. E-F-F-E-R-N-T.
Here? Yes.
See? There you go. This is kind of like we do with the skin.
Yeah, you guys didn't
That was
like
the
that.
bomb. I mean, he branched it out, and that was so cool. You can see it all at glance. For anyone who's like
Sympathetic and parasympathetic.
global learner, that's like, he's awesome.
Which one is it now? Over here? Oh, here?
Yeah.
The sensory, then arrow down the sensory and the motor neurons meet in the spinal cord.
What's this guy right there? This.
Sympathetic and parasympathetic.
Oh, sympathetic and parasympathetic, okay.
Wait, under neuroglia, is that just nervous in parentheses?
Yeah, nerve in parentheses and glue. That's just telling you what it actually means, which kind of should help you to determine.
Yeah, it's.
What it determines that it's
It's
the other
green.
side. Oh, yeah.
Thanks, man.
This process still needs to remember, you know? I know. It's easy.
Like, clear shit here.
Oh, by the way, just in case you didn't get the memo, obviously, she doesn't want us to give her money, but she will accept sushi. So, if you guys are so inclined, or if you come across any free sushi, then just bring it our way and.
What are your dislikes regarding sushi? What don't you eat?
I haven't had anything yet that I don't, but I haven't tried the black stuff, like,
You know, like the SSB, the octopus yet?
no, I haven't had any of that.
It actually tastes delicious, I'm sure, it really should. Sesame butter, just better control. I highly recommend that.
I don't know, I've been to some exotic places, you probably try some exotic foods, haven't you? That's so fits.
I really like it, as you see. It's like, there's no, like, isn't that?
No?
You can't want fish, there's money.
That's what everyone says.
Okay, so I'm just gonna get started because I wanna make sure that we get through, some of this information. Mike, when you get a moment, can you just hold up the
Yeah.
computer for me?
Yeah.
And then I can pull up, some hints and stuff. But to get started, when you're talking about the nervous system, you really have to break it down into 3 ways to break it down. In order to really understand it, you have to break it down by the micro pieces that are involved in the nervous system. And when I'm talking about the micro pieces, I'm really talking about things like the neurons and the neuroglia and the reflex arches. Those are the kind of like the micro pieces of the nervous system. And then you have to break it down into its 2 parts, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Because if you try and take it all in at one time, you're going to be so overwhelmed because there's so many little details in it that it's going to screw with your mind. So my suggestion,
Table. I'm sorry. I'll take it.
my suggestion to you all is to first learn it bit by bit. First learn the micro, then learn the CNS, then learn the PNS, and then you can kind of work on how it all interacts with each other. Sorry. All right, so, no problem. So, what I just want to do is kind of break down the pieces for you in the different ways that I just told you. So when we're looking at the micro pieces of the nervous system, we are looking at the types of nerve cells that we have. And in the nervous system, we only have 2 types of nerve cells, or 2 classifications of nerve cells. We have the neurons, and we have neuroglia, okay? And then the neurons, of course, it can't just be that easy, neurons and neuroglia, because then we could all understand it and we wouldn't be here right now, right? But each of these classifications break down further. So the neurons, there's 2 types of neurons. There's motor neurons and there's sensory neurons. And basically, what this means is that the way this operates is it starts with the sensory neurons. There's some kind of stimulus that activates our nervous system, our senses, okay? So, for instance, I'm touching this and it's pain, okay? I've touched this, the pain now has activated my nervous system, and the sensory nervous cells are traveling where? Towards my brain. They travel from the sense towards my brain, and it tells my brain, hey, that's painful. And my brain says, stupid, move your hand. And it travels down, now the motor neurons, so the senses travel up and say, it's pain. And then the motor neurons kick in and say, move your hand. So brain says, move your hand, sends the signal back down to my hand is moved. That's the neurons. Two types, motor and sensory, okay? And that's where she was going about the John Travolta thing. Motor is away from the brain, sensory is to the brain. So one weird day when I was feeling weird, I was telling my students, just, I made them all actually get up and do the John Travolta so that they would remember. But however you need to remember it, you need to connect sensory and afferent and towards the brain all together. Those three words need to always be connected in your brain. If I said to you sensory neuron, what would you say to me? Toward the brain. And you should also say what, Michelle? Toward the brain, sensory, and afferent. They should be like that. Just like I say peanut butter, you say jelly, right? Okay, I say Oreos, you say milk. Okay, it just kind of goes together. Those things need to be married in your brain. All right? So it's sensory toward the brain and it's afferent. Okay? And then you have motor neurons that go away from the brain because remember, motor means movement. All right? So if you're thinking about that, always think about your brain having to tell something in your body to move. So it goes from your brain down to somewhere else, right? So always marry motor, away, and efferent together, all right? Young blondie lady in the middle row. What should you do with afferent? Sensory. And sensory goes to or from your Jennifer? Toward what? The brain. From where? From the neuron, that's what's going towards the brain. But what stimulates it? An impulse of some kind. Cold, hot, happy, or, a joke or something. Something that stimulates our nervous system, alright? That's going to stimulate our sensories to say, oh, I'm experiencing something here. And so that's what travels up to the brain. And then, tell me, what happens? The brain gets it.
The brain gets it, process it.
Okay, processes it, all right.
And then it hits your efferent.
Efferent, that's right.
Motor. Back down to remove.
Back down to your arms or wherever it is, exactly. Back down for you to do something about it. All right? Mm-hmm. But here's the deal. You cannot, if you think of this as a universe, you can't just have all these nerve cells, motor and sensory nerve cells hanging out. It just doesn't make sense. They have to be connected to something. Or they have to be connected to the body or to each other, or somehow they have to be in our body but contained. And the way that our body contains it is through the neuroglia cells. Neuro means nerve, glia means glue. So really, these neuroglia cells, their whole job is to make the connections. They connect these motor neurons and these sensory neurons either to each other or to blood vessels or to different body parts. However it is, these are the connector cells. All right? And there's three basic type of neuroglia cells. You have the astrocytes. When I say to you astro, what shape comes to mind? Star. Guess what? These are star shaped. And their whole purpose is to attach the neurons to the blood vessels. Okay? Neurons to the blood vessels. They're sometimes referred to as the mommy cell because they nurture. Their whole job is to make sure that these neurons get all the nutrients that they need from the blood vessels to keep them going. Okay? All right, and then you have another type of cell called microglia. Microglia. And if you think about these are kind of just small little sneaky things. You don't think much about them until tissue is damaged. Once nervous tissue is damaged, these things grow and they become microbe-eating organisms. That's their whole job, is protection. They're small, they don't think much about anything until there's tissue that gets damaged, and then they're on patrol. They grow, and they start to attack whatever is causing the damage to the nervous tissue. Yes, no, maybe so?
Are they fiber cells?
Different body systems.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
That's only with the circulatory system,
Right. Okay. Then you have something called oligodendrocytes. Oligodendrocytes, their primary responsibility is to hold all the nerve fibers in place, and they are what is covered with the myelin sheath. And what did you learn about the myelin sheath today?
The things they skip, I mean, they only cover certain parts, and then the nerve impulse jumps in between the myelin sheaths and keeps going, and that's how it goes quicker so that they can.
So they're like an insulator, and that's what actually helps the transmission of nerve impulses go quickly. Okay? So without these oligodendrocytes, or without these myelin sheaths, we have jerky movements, or we have delayed movements. That's why in diseases and disorders, sorry if this offends you, but I'm kicking off my shoes. In diseases and disorders, you have things like MS that has to do with deterioration of the myelin sheath. And because there's deterioration of that, what will happen is there will be a lot of jerky movements. There will be movements where there's starts but not stops to it, or just a lot of this, or they can't actually hold things and move smoothly because the myelin sheaths aren't all in place. And so you have these myelin sheaths that cover the nerve endings, and they jump from here to here to here all the way up. But without those myelin sheaths, then they jump from here to maybe here, and then here, and then here, and then here, instead of having that big jump. Do you see what I'm saying? Yes, no, maybe so? If you don't follow me, now's your time to say, hey, I can get that. Yes, ma'am.
Sure, so the
Oligodendrocytes?
those are myelin sheaths, correct?
Yes, they're not myelin sheaths. They contain myelin sheaths. They make myelin sheaths. But they themselves are not myelin sheaths.
Okay.
Myelin sheaths are myelin sheaths. You got it? Okay.
So we're jumping in between sheets or between sheets?
You're jumping in between sheets. Boom, boom, boom. Okay? I have something for you.
No. I know I need that.
I'm gonna give it to you. I promised Michelle, but I'm making more. Don't give me stand
Oh, anytime, anytime.
No, can I go get it printed? Because I like to write on it as you're talking about stuff. I like to make little notes off to the side.
Okay, you know what, here, man, you can have this one.
I need one.
I know you do, but y'all is killing me.
I didn't know how many people were gonna come tonight, and it's my fault. I only
She
took
kept saying, Mike, ain't nobody gonna show up tonight. It's all foggy. I said, honey, you watch. And sure enough, my people were.
Right. We're not there yet. We're gonna learn about that a little bit later. Okay, what I want to do is, I just want to reiterate. So, in the nervous system, we have three parts that we need to separate in order to study. The first part are the micro pieces of it. The second part is the CNS, which stands for, and then we have the PNS, which stands for, okay, part of the micro pieces of the nervous system are the cells that make them up. There's two types of cells. I know who you are, your tweet. Okay. You changed your hair since the last time I saw you, right? Yeah, okay, see? You gotta give me props. Only one time, and I got you, all right? So, what are the two types of neurons? It's okay. Two types of neurons. Help her out, guys. The motor and the sensory. Here they are right up here. Two types of neurons. You have the motor neurons and the sensory neurons. When I say to you, motor neurons, what are you going to say to me?
Away. Everett. I'm sorry, I didn't know she was pointing.
No, tell me. Motor goes which way? Away, and what else do you tell me? What is it? Afferent. Afferent with the A. The only reason I say that is afferent is
Wait, yeah, E.
Did I do it? Oh, I'm sorry, efferent. I'm so sorry, efferent.
There's two different ones.
That's me. There you go, it's me. All right, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, so motor. I'm so sorry, it was my mistake. Motor goes away, and it's called efferent. It is right. I just said it wrong to you. I apologize. Okay, the other type is, what's your name? Christine. The other type is since you're trying to let it before, just try to recall it, because the more you can recall it when we're talking about it here, the less you're going to need your notes. And then when you take your test on Wednesday, you'll be more prepared. So, we have motor and efferent, the me's, which travel away, and then we have the saws, the me's and the saws, okay? Me and saw. Saw goes toward, and it's an afferent, okay? Then, besides the neurons, what's the other type of nerve cell that we have, Rob? Neuroglia. Neuroglia. I'm not going to pick on you yet, Michelle, because I see that you're catching up. What? My eyes on you.
What is that word? That's the brain cell? I can't read that.
Brainstem, cerebellum, diencephalon, and cerebrum. This is cerebellum, cerebellum. Yes. Oh, small. The microglia, they're small in cell. Okay, so we said that there's two types of nerve cells, neurons and neuroglia. How many types of neuroglia did we talk about? 3 types. Tell me one type. Dash. Okay, you don't get it. That's okay. Blondie, what's your name? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so tell me, you're gonna be Blondie. Astrocytes, that's one of them. And what shape is an astrocyte? And what does it do?
It's the money, so it attaches the blood vessels so they don't get nutrients.
Okay, it attaches the neurons to the blood vessels. All right. Then we have another type is called, tell me. Microglia. And tell me your name again. Shayna? I remember that. We're so close. Yeah, I'm just going to call you Shay. Okay. All right, so Shayna, tell me about these microglia. Mm-hmm. And then they grow, and you got it. You got it. They grow and they eat. All right, and then the last type that we have going on. Talk to me again. Oligodendrocytes. Oligodendrocytes. And what do oligodendrocytes do? Oligodendrocytes, they involve certain coverings. Yeah, myelin sheath. Yep, so the oligodendrocytes produce the myelin sheath, and they hold nerve fibers together. Okay? All right. So that talks about the nerves of the nervous system. Then let's talk about something called the reflex arch.
Isn't that like instinctual stuff?
Yeah, this is instinctual stuff. This is stuff that we don't really have to. I'm familiar.
It's okay. It's my toss up. It's okay.
All right now. All right, so we're going to talk about the reflex arch, okay? So the reflex arch is basically talking about how the nerve impulses travel with the reflex, okay? We have different, he's not allowed to come to study session anymore.
I can turn my people against me.
Alright, so basically there's two basic types of reflex arches, alright? There's the simple reflex arch, or the two neuron reflex arch. And basically, all that is that the motory neuron and the sensory neuron meet each other in the spinal cord. Direct contact. Pain, move. Boom. No communication, no interpretation. Pain, move, got it. It's not really involuntary, but it's like what makes you, if I came to you and I was like this, then you automatically blink. Yeah. That's because that's happening just like this. Sensory motor, boom. No interpretive, and that's it. Then you have a more complex reflex arch, which basically includes this interneuron. And I gotta tell you the truth, I'm still not sure all of what the interneuron does, except for I know it's kind of like a translator, where the sensory neuron goes to the interneuron, and then the interneuron interprets this and sends it to the motor neuron. It's not the brain, but it is like it's really like a translator, as if you were in a foreign country and you were in Spain, you didn't speak Spanish, and somebody says, you said, okay, I need to ask, where's the bathroom? So your sensory would put in the translator, which is the inner neuron, where is the bathroom? And it spits out, ¿Dónde está el baño? I don't know if that's right, so it's Spanish. People here don't laugh at me. It was very definitely gringo talk. Okay, so sensory, inner neuron, translates it and sends it to the motor. But you need to understand that it goes sensory, inner neuron, motor.
In what case are they right now?
What case is what?
Like examples, like the whole blinking thing.
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure there's probably examples in your book. I just know that it's more complex. So when it goes more from, probably I'm thinking more like
okay, you want to land on your hand, you feel your hands feeling pain, and it gives step back there and move it, but you got to move yourself.
Yeah, well, no, it's not really that, because it's more like, it's more of a complex, so like when we are little kids or little babies, it's called the Babinski reflex, and you rub their foot and their feet curl up. It's not really telling them to move away or to protect itself. It's more complex. It's just, it does it, I don't even know why. It's just, it does it instinctually. It does it as a reflex. And it's that complication. This sensory basic is more of a protection type of thing. You do it to protect yourself. Pain, move. You know, something coming at your face, you duck or you flinch. Okay? That's more basic. This is more complicated. Like the Babinski reflex, where you just rub their feet and their little toes curl like that. It's not really protective, so it doesn't have to be as quick. Still, it's quick, don't get me wrong there. It's not like we are gonna go, oh, well, that was 0.0001 and this was 0.0002, so definitely a difference. We wouldn't see the difference in our naked eye, but it's because there's an extra step that it has to go to with this. Okay. Everybody good so far? If you're not good, now's your time to tell me because I can clear up the parts that we talked about. To recap, how many types of nerve cells are there? Two types. What are they? Neuron and neuroglia. Two types of neuron, which are motor and sensory. Motor is efferent and it's away, and sensory is afferent and towards. Okay? Yeah. The nerve cells are the neurons and the neuroglia. Okay? All right. Yes. Microglia, it's a very small cell until there's tissue damage in the nervous system. Once that tissue damage happens, that is basically like a gremlin. Did you ever see gremlins? Okay, so you saw how cute and innocent they were until they got into water, right? And then they grew and they became these monsters. That's kind of like this microglia is. It's very small. People don't really think much about it until there's tissue damage. Once they see tissue damage, really, they grow and then they start going and they start eating whatever was damaging their tissue. Okay? They get rid of the damaged tissue, and really they get rid of it's not really that they get rid of the damaged tissue, they get rid of what was damaging the tissue. So if it was, say it was staph that was damaging that tissue, it starts to eat the staph, okay? All right, yes. Okay. Cat. We haven't gone there yet. So none of this stuff yet we haven't gotten over. Okay?
Okay, also you said there's three, you said there's two types, but in my book I see that there's three.
Two types of what? Okay, tell me.
The sensory motor and also interneurons.
Interneurons, you don't really, you're right, correct, there is this interneuron over here, but it's really, like I said, it's really like it's like the translator, yeah. Yeah. The complex, this is called the 3-neuron reflex arch. Okay? And this is the 2-neuron reflex arch. Okay. And then we talk about neuroglia. Okay? How many types of neuroglia? Yeah, neuroglia are there? Three. And what are those types? Oligodendrocytes. Okay. Oligodendrocytes. All right. And so astrocytes, they're star-shaped, and what do they do, Michelle? I told you I was coming for you. Okay, so they're in the mama cell. They feed the neurons. All right? Then you have microglia. Shayon, what do microglia do? It's not that they eat up the damaged tissue, it's not close. It's that they eat up whatever is causing the damage. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And then the last one is oligodendrocytes. Robbie, tell me, Rob. Probably not Robbie, sorry. Rob is way cooler. Robbie is little boy still. Rob. So Rob, tell me what's
Oligodendrocytes, they form the myelin sheath.
Okay, and what do they do?
They encapsulate the nerve.
The nerve fibers. Nerve fibers. Okay. So that's kind of.
Is that what the oligodendrocytes do, or the myelin sheaths do that?
The myelin sheaths do, and the oligodendrocytes have myelin sheaths, they're responsible for the myelin sheaths, and they also hold nerve fibers together. Okay? All right, so everything that's in black on the board is part of that micro organism or the micro part of the nervous system that I was telling you you should write down first. Yes, ma'am. Microglia.
What are those two things?
Neuroglia.
Okay.
Okay, hold on.
Neuroglia is in there. I remember it. It's the glue. Yeah, glia is the word for glue. It's a Greek word for glue. Nua is nerve glue.
Okay, so two types of cells found in the nervous system are.
Neurons and neuroglia.
Okay. Alright, so next thing that we need to do probably is go over the parts of the actual neuron themselves, alright? So that also needs to be in black, and I'm trying to, there's a great picture in your book on page 169. That actually breaks down and shows you what a nerve cell looks like, and that's really good for us to know. So if I told you something along the lines, or I asked you something along the lines
This is our extra credit that Clyde's given us, babe.
oh, okay, well that's even better.
So like we
I really know this.
So you do need to know this, alright. What part of the neuron is responsible for carrying impulses to the neuron cell body? Dendrites. So if we had to sum this up in a word or two, could we say that they were the carriers? They carry the what?
The impulse.
Impulses from where?
From the other neuron.
From the,
Oh, it's not let me come in too, so.
let's look at the picture here. They carry it from the nerve body down to the
Axon.
axon. There you go. So dendrites carry, right? You guys following me so far? All right. All right. What does the axon do?
The axon goes down. Connects to the next cell.
It passes away from here. I'm sorry.
Something ball or little cells come out, little fluid, and then go to the
So
next
this is another thing. Dendrites, I should say, carry to the nerve body, and the axon carries it away. And here, remember, axon A, away A. Okay?
Axon away.
Dendrites carry it to the cell body, axons carry it away from the cell body.
Is it nerve or cell line?
Neuron, it's still a neuron cell. Alright, so what are the types of neurons that carry impulses to the brain?
Dendrites.
Not to
Sensory.
Yeah, dendrites are part of a neuron. Now I'm talking about, so this is what you have to keep in mind. There's two things that you have to keep in mind. Inside the nerve cell of neuron, you have dendrites and axons, okay? And dendrites carry it to the cell body, and axons carry it away. That's in the neuron itself. Nerve impulses. Okay. Just now, before this, I was asking you what kind of neuron carries the impulses to the brain and spinal cord. Sensory. So this is what I'm trying to get you to watch out for. When you're reading the test questions, make sure that you are reading, is this talking about the neuron and what part of the neuron it is? So if it's a part of the neuron, then it's going to be like a dendrocyte, it's going to be a dendrite, an axon, or a neurolemma, or roads of Ranvier. Those are all things that are inside the neuron itself, okay?
Okay.
If it's talking about types of neuron, then it's motor or sensory or interneuron, but the types that are really important to us most of the time are motor and sensory, okay? So dendrites inside the neuron itself carry impulses to the neuron cell body. And axons carry impulses away from that neuron cell body. Whereas sensory neurons carry impulses to the brain, and motor neurons carry it away from the brain.
Okay.
Okay?
You said that one more time because it's not majorly important.
Okay.
Passing the test important.
Inside the cell itself, on the test, if it's asking about what parts of the neuron or what part of the neuron carries impulses to the cell body, then you would tell me dendrite. If I asked you what part of the neuron carries impulses away from the cell body, then you would tell me axon. As opposed to if I asked you what type of neuron sends messages or sends impulses to the brain, then you would tell me
Sensory.
or afferent, sensory afferent, or if I asked you what type of neuron takes messages or impulses from the brain, then you would say motor or efferent. Me or saw. Motor, efferent, sensory afferent. Me saw. Okay? Alright, so, clear as mud?
That's about accurate.
Alright. So you always need to make sure that you connect MESA, motor, efferent, sensory, afferent. Because you know how these tests like to ask you the same question in 18 different ways. So they may say something like, what types of cell carry messages to, what kind of neurons carry messages to the brain? And one time the answer may be sensory, but then the next time it may be afferent. Okay, so those are the things. Or it may say a sensory neuron carries messages which way to the, where does it carry the message? And then you have to know that it carries it toward the brain. You see what I'm saying? So in that question, one thing, I can ask you 3 different questions just off of that one piece of information.
Or, I was going to say, or what about one of them crazy true or false things, where it says everything right except for the last word.
That's true. That's another thing you got to watch out for, because it could say something like this. The sensory is the efferent, is known also as efferent, and it carries it to the brain. And you go, you see sensory brain, boom, got it, right? But you forgot that it said efferent in there, all right? And I'm just telling you that because I'm a skimmer. When I read, I skim, and that's how I take tests. And I've had to learn to slow and go some and actually read the whole question instead of going, oh, sensory? And then it's like, no,
I'll take my time. They give me the time, I'll take it.
So if you say one
know.
could say neuroglia, or you could say oligodendrocytes, okay? So again, you've got to think about this, the whole thing.
Is it a neuroglia? Check. Okay, but if they're saying, if they don't have neuroglia as the answer, then you gotta break it down even more. Which one? Or even worse, they could have only the names and then they could have you match what they do. So that sounds like a good matching type of thing, where you have astrocytes, oligodendrocytes. Okay, you see what I'm saying? All right,
I feel like
so
more like it'd be trickier if like you had like whatever the question for that was, and then it was neuroglia, all in dendrocytes both have answers, and you have to pick one that's more right.
right.
And in that case, if they only let you pick one and they have neuroglia or oligodendrocytes, which one would you choose? And that would be more correct, even though an oligodendrocyte is a neuroglia cell. But because it gives the most precise answer, that's what you're looking for. And that's a good point, Michelle, because these tests are tricky out there. I mean, you know, they're really making sure that you know your stuff. So that's what they're going to try and do. All right? All right. Astrocytes. What do they do? Okay. So the other thing that you need to know is because they're attached to the blood vessels, they're also highly important in the blood-brain barrier. Okay? That makes sense, right?
Right.
If they're attached to the blood vessels, then it only makes sense that they're also attached to are important in the blood-brain barrier. Right? Jennifer's looking at me like, you're right, baby, whatever you say.
I'm
You
still-
say it,
That's like the last thing I remember.
Yeah, I'm still confused on
Okay.
blood-brain barrier as to where it's located exactly. I mean, I get what it does,
Right.
it's usually getting into the brain or into the bloodstream.
And it covers, it literally, it's inside and it covers the brain. It's like,
Okay.
it is like it's in the tissue and the meninges.
Mhm.
Do you remember what meninges are?
No.
Meninges are the covering of the brain and the spinal cord.
Okay.
We're gonna get there.
All right. Sorry. I didn't
It's okay. Okay, and this is where this is where it gets a little sketchy for you guys, and this is why you guys are like, oh my God.
All right. Here, oligodendrocytes produce myelin inside of the central nervous system. Schwann cells produce myelin sheaths outside in the peripheral nervous system.
Oh, can you say that again?
Yep, I'm gonna write this up here.
I told you that it is recorded,
Okay.
because I heard it once and I'm like, I think I got it, and then I go back home, it's there, but where, right? That's why. I gotta go back and listen to it again.
Oh, yes.
Just being video recorded, just being audio recorded 2 or 3 times, so we can get a hold of this. Okay, so you're saying that when it's in the central nervous system, the Schwann vein, or whatever it is.
Schwann cell.
Schwann cell, he does certain things.
Produces myelin.
Okay, he produces myelin. But when he's in the peripheral nervous system,
It's the oligodendrocyte.
the oligodendrocytes,
It's in the, no, the dendrocytes in the central and the Schwann in the peripheral.
Isn't that what he was saying?
So both of them produce myelin?
Okay, listen, babe. All right. In the CNS, central nervous system, just marry CNS and oligodendrocyte. Boom, that's all you need to know. CNS, oligodendrocyte, myelin sheath. CNS, oligodendrocyte, myelin sheath. CNS, oligodendrocyte, myelin sheath. All of you guys who are going to be listening to this on your test, you're going to hear CNS, oligodendrocyte myelin sheath. Okay? Mike. CNS. What?
Oligodendrocyte myelin sheath.
Okay, Michelle. CNS. Tell me your name again. Christine. Christina. Christine. CNS. Oligodendrocytes. And myelin sheath. All right. Okay?
Okay.
That was me erasing your brain. Now, peripheral PNS, Schwann cells, myelin sheath. 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 Ross, PNS. And Jennifer, CNS. CNS. And, okay. Talk to me. I want both from you.
Peripheral is going to be the Schwann cells, your myelin sheaths, and then the CNS is going to be the oligodendrocyte something all that.
Oligodendrocyte. Okay, Lachelle. Schwann cells. And Tweet, my friend Tweet.
Oligodendrocytes. And they produce myelin sheath. Allie? Think about that.
Stop it, translated it over. Okay, talk to me about PNS.
Don't just look at me. PNS? Don't look at me.
It's lying.
Four cells produce. Okay.
I like that.
CNS.
And they produce?
Shayana, my friend. Okay. Schwann cells. Sierra. You know what? Sometimes I think I know your name, and I'm afraid I'm going to say it wrong or say the wrong name.
She's the one that keeps me in
I
check.
know. She's your school wife, and she has my permission to hit you on the head.
I'm wrong. I just,
All right, so both. Yeah, like oligo. There you go. Schwann cells. You got it.
Okay. All right, guys.
Moving along. Okay. What are micro-eating neurons? Micro-eating nerve cells.
The astrocytes.
Microglia. Okay. So microglia are what types of nerve cells?
They're eating.
No, we said that they're eating, but
Neuroglia.
Okay. Now comes,
A good way to remember Michael is this theory, getting rid of things that cause damage, like microbes do that, so they don't
Okay, so I'm just going to tell you, because for lack of time, I'm just going to tell you, please make sure that you know the coverings of the myelin sheath, where you have the epineuron, the perineuron. Am I making sense to you guys? You kind of think about those?
171.
Okay, 171. Make sure that you know those.
You said the myelin sheath.
171. No.
171, you have the epineuron. The what else?
Epineurum, all the
Harry's middle, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I want you guys to make sure that you know that. And those are coverings of the myelin sheath, so you just need to know, like, just the things that you need to know about it are like, the epineuron is the tough fibrous sheath covering. Say that 5 times fast. Epineuron is the tough fibrous sheath covering. Whew. How many types of reflex arches can there be?
2.
What are those 2 types?
2 and 3.
2 and 3. Okay. Okay. What is the difference between the 2 and 3?
1 and 3 is 2.
3 has the inner neuron. There you go. Oh, 2 and 5. Did you eat a candy? No. I'm just teasing you. Okay. All right. The simple one is the 2.
Simple one is the 2.
And that's just, which ones, what's included in just the simple ones? And that happens in the spinal cord, right?
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
I didn't hear that.
The reflex, the simple reflex arch has 2 neurons in it. The simple,
Okay.
the sensory and the motor, and it happens in the spinal cord.
Both don't happen in spinal cord, right?
Yeah. Both happen in the spinal cord.
But the one,
The 2
doesn't the
and
one
3
go
do.
to your brain?
It-
The complex one does,
The
right?
complex,
I'm just, sorry.
okay, just know that the complex one has 3 neurons, and the inner neuron does the translating of it, okay? Don't make it more complicated than it is,
Okay.
okay? Alright. Alright, when the nerve impulse encounters the myelin sheath, what does it do?
Like I said.
What does the nerve impulse do when it comes to a myelin sheath?
Oh,
It jumps over it.
It jumps over it.
Also, the US or something, it's just
See, listen to you, girl. Yeah. When the nerve impulse reaches the myelin sheath, it jumps over it. It jumps over the myelin
We got like
sheath.
the
Yeah.
green spot.
Alright. So then what we gotta talk about some is how these nerve impulses actually travel. Alright? So let's think about this for a minute. We have a message that's coming from the cell body. It's coming down where? From the cell body. So it's coming down the axon. And it goes down to the little fingers, which are called, yeah, axons. What are like the little finger things down at the very bottom of the cell? The synaptic knob. Okay, the synaptic knob is, so basically what happens is this. Oh, you haven't learned this yet?
We're gonna talk about it, but anyway, just keep going.
Oh, yeah, we haven't learned this tonight, so I'm just teaching you now. Because this is all part of the micro piece that we're trying to learn.
Right.
Okay. Synaptic knob.
That's at the end, it's at the very end.
Okay, so basically it's like this. Yeah, of a nerve cell itself. You have the cell body, and in the middle you have the what's in the middle of the cell?
The body and the axon.
Okay. I got a picture of this on the board.
169.
169, yeah. Okay, thanks. Alright, yes, please do. Alright? Yeah, because in the middle of the cell body you have a nucleus. Alright? And then you have an axon. So it's basically like this. Here's the cell body, right here. And then from the top you have all these dendrites.
Right.
Okay? Alright. And then going down, you have an axon, which is the big tail, and then they're connected to dendrites, right? Okay, so you have dendrites that receive from, they're basically like this, dendrites that are on the tail of the axon over here, talk to the dendrites that are on the top of the next one over here, okay? And so basically, they don't connect. They are close to each other, but they don't connect.
Mhm.
So how does the impulse go from one to the other? So, there you go. That's where neurotransmitters come in along, because neurotransmitters do just what their name says. It transmits nerve impulses. So you have dendrocytes. Here is my axon.
Okay.
Here's my cell body. Okay, cell body, dendrocytes, axon, dendrocytes, and now I have dendrocytes from the other cell.
Okay, dendrocytes from the other cell,
Right.
and now I'm trying to send him a message, okay?
Right.
At the end of these dendrocytes, we have little vesicles. These vesicles hold neurotransmitters, serotonin, acetylcholine, all these fancy little names that make our different types of nerves do different things.
Okay.
So, I'm over here, and in order for him
Mhm.
to get the transmission,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
these little vesicles pop, and the chemicals are released.
Okay.
And when they're released, they wash over and hit these dendrocytes,
Okay.
and this is called the synaptic cleft or the synaptic gap.
Yeah.
So it bridges the gap between the synaptic gap so that the transmitter or the impulse can go from this dendrocyte over to this nerve cell, into this dendrocyte, up into his cell body, into his axon, down to his little dendrocytes, over here to her little dendrocytes, up to her cell body, down her axon, into her. And every time they get to these little dendrocytes from one cell to the other, you have vesicles are they're like little sacs that have different chemicals in them. Now, how is it that how does the nerve react? How does the nerve know to react to serotonin and not to acetylcholine? It's not that it's only one, it's that there's receptors. And these receptors are like locks and keys. So, for instance,
Okay.
serotonin, I think I spelled that wrong, but if I did, maybe it sends out something that looks like this, okay?
Right.
And then on the other dendrocyte, the one that it's going to, it's got little receptors that have a shape like this.
Right. So you can fit like a key.
So it fits like a key. So only serotonin neurotransmitters will go to the serotonin receptors.
Okay.
Okay, and only acetylcholine will go to the acetylcholine receptors. That's why we only have a certain amount of neurotransmitters, and neurotransmitters only affect certain tissues in our bodies certain ways, because only certain tissues in our bodies have the types of receptors that will receive this.
Okay. Right.
So, for instance, when somebody is depressed, a lot of times they're depressed because they lack serotonin.
Right.
So then when you prescribe to them, or the doctor prescribes to them, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, what happens with that is that it allows more serotonin, and thus we have more receptors that actually attach to the serotonin. Okay? So that's how that works. You have to have a serotonin neurotransmitter that has a lock and a key. And when they fit together, they do what they're supposed to do. My serotonin lock will not go for my acetylcholine key. Just like my key to the Hyundai won't fit the key to the Altima.
Right.
It's both a car, they both are going to carry me someplace, but they're going to carry me someplace in different amounts of style, right? Okay, it's kind of the same way with neurotransmitters. Are you guys following me over here? Okay. So, alright. So we have that. Let me just make sure I'm telling you guys all the right information. So, what is the synapse then? The synapse is what?
The whole area where it's
the synapse is actually that gap between the neurons. You remember where you have the dendrites from one
Right.
and the dendrites from other, but
Right.
they don't connect here?
Right.
So the synapse is actually that gap in between, okay?
Yeah.
And how is it bridged? Through
By
what?
10%, by the chemical.
By a chemical, exactly. All right? And that synapse, that space, actually is what separates the end of one neuron dendrite to the beginning of the other neuron dendrite.
Okay.
Okay? Is a space.
So the synapse literally is a space.
It's a space.
It's a short space.
It's a small space. It can even be that big. Yeah.
So that's the pre-synaptic and then the post.
Yeah.
And then
You got it. You got it.
How come everybody else knows this and I'm like,
Because you were busy driving your flashcards instead of paying attention. So you guys kind of remember how when we were talking about the circulatory system, we talked about the sodium-potassium pump, right? Well, we have something very similar to that when we're talking about neurons and nerve transmission. It's not a sodium-potassium pump, but salt or sodium plays a huge part in our nerve health, okay? And so basically it goes something like this. On the outside of the cell, you have sodium particles or sodium cells, okay? And sodium has what kind of charge, positive or negative? Okay, so you have, here's my cell, and all around it, I have this nice little sodium. So the exterior of this cell is going to be what, positive or negative?
Positive.
Okay, so I can tell you that the resting neuron, a neuron, which is what this is, that resting neuron has a slightly positive charge on the exterior of the cell, right? All right. Oh, you remember something about this, right? Yeah. All right. Huh? I don't know where in your book you are. I'm sorry. All right. So when that resting neuron starts to become stimulated, what's going to happen is that those sodium ions start to rush into the cell. Okay? And they rush into the cell, and then the inside of the cell becomes slightly positive. Okay?
Okay, now how does this happen? How does this cell get turned on?
Because the membranes become more permeable with that impulse. The impulse makes the cell membrane more permeable to the salt. So the impulse comes, stimulates the cell, and because of that stimulation of the cell, the membrane kind of opens up and switches, so then now all that salt can rush into the inside of it, and it only lasts for as long as that nerve impulse goes. Once that impulse travels from the dendrocyte to the cell body down the axon to the next dendrocyte, then it's gone, and it switches back.
So it's like laying there, and all of a sudden, it kind of goes through, it's like, hey, and it's like, okay, now the...
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. So, let me demonstrate. I need 3 people to come up here, okay? No, not quite. It's like this. Come up here. All right. Here's my neuron, all right? Okay. Your job is when I stimulate this neuron, it's your job, you slightly positive exterior people, to all come in and come into the neuron. That's your job. All 3 of you.
Go on to the neuron.
Yep. Because right now, I am a sodium in here, but I'm only 1. And there's 3 of you all, right?
Right.
All right, so now nerve impulses, the nerve impulse, well, the stimulus has gotten this neuron.
and it's changed the membrane. What's
Okay.
gonna happen?
We gotta go in there.
You gotta rush in.
Cause we're
Yeah.
slightly
You
positive,
rush
right?
in,
You're
right?
rushing in, okay, we're rushing in.
Alright, and so here we go.
We're all in
You're
together,
we're
right?
all in there together. Alright, so now it comes, oh my gosh.
Okay.
So now it comes and, I got you.
Okay.
It travels up into your cell body,
Gets
down
him.
his axon, got
Gets
him.
him.
And then,
Boom.
boom, got her, what? Now you leave. Because as soon as you're done, you leave.
Leave out there.
And now I'm back, and that's, the exterior is slightly more positive than the interior when it's resting. Okay, now it may rest only for a split second.
And then
And then it may start all over again.
Then a do-si-dos and does it again.
Right, exactly. So the resting neuron, the outside of the resting neuron is slightly more positive than the inside of it. Then the stimulus comes along, stimulates the membrane of the cell, and all the sodium come in.
He's supposed to be in there.
You travel, you're impacted, travel, dendrocyte, cell body, axon, dendrocyte, cell body, axon, dendrocyte, cell body, axon. And when there's no more dendrocyte, cell body, axon, boom, you
Then
go.
we're done. Once there's no more, then we go back.
When no more
And we're
inflows, you go.
slightly positive again.
And you're slightly positive again, and
And
the
you're salty.
inside is slightly negative.
Right.
Right, so questions from that could sound something like this. The inside of the resting neuron is slightly negative. True or false?
True.
True, because the outside is positive. Exactly. So you could ask two different questions here. What charge is on the inside of the resting cell?
Negative.
Yeah, that's right. That would be polarization because you're switching the polarities or the negatives and the positives. Right? So, that's right.
If you say that out loud, so we can all hear it. That sounds important.
Was this like a test yet, huh?
Right, the positive, like, basically what she said, when the outside is a positive,
Mm-hmm.
because of the sodium,
Yes,
the
yes.
inside is negative,
Right.
that's polarization.
That's because
polarization.
it's resting. Just like the stars, polarization meant resting.
Okay, so resting, polarization.
Right, then when it's stimulated, it's the
Depolarization.
When it's stimulated, depolarization.
Depolarization happens when all the positives
Go
rush
inside.
into the inside.
Right.
Okay, because you're depolarizing or you're switching the polarities, the negatives or the positives of what's inside the cell.
Got
Okay?
That's like
Exactly.
EKG.
Exactly like
the
that.
recovering part is the polarization.
Exactly. And it's just like that for the cell. Okay, so let's write that on the board so that everybody gets it. So resting is polarization.
Resting.
Movement or stimulus, I should say stimulus, causes depolarization. In depolarization, Jennifer, what's happening in depolarization?
All the positives switch with the negative.
All the positives switch on the inside, all right? So we can say in resting, the outside is positive, and the inside is negative. And then during depolarization, then we could say that the outside is negative and the inside is positive. And then we have resting again, and it's repolarization.
You put resting and recovery.
Resting and recovering.
Because that's what they call it.
Recovery.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so outside, positive, when it's resting, recovering, and And depolarization inside is positive, and the outside is negative.
And then the resting and recovery, it switches back again. Resting and recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so where did we say neurotransmitters are released from? What did we say that was called? The synaptic knob. The synaptic knob. It's actually at the very end of this dendrocyte. Right here at the very end of these dendrocytes, they have like little knobs here.
Okay, so the synaptic knob
Uh-huh.
is right there at the end.
Uh-huh. And then this goes to other dendrocytes. You see what I'm saying?
So that's the knob.
This part right here is the knob. The knob is what's actually holding on to that chemical or to the neurotransmitter. Okay? The knob houses the neurotransmitter.
So there's knobs at the bottom part as well as the top part?
Yeah, everywhere that there's a dendrite, at the end of all of these little dendrites, there's little knobs. And all of those little dendrites are next to other little dendrites from other cells. And the space between them is the synapse or the synaptic cleft. And the only way that the synaptic cleft can be bridged is through a chemical called a neurotransmitter. All right. Let me just make sure that I've gotten all of the.
I have a question.
Yes.
So we've established that with the axon and the dendrites, it's just like the opposite, it's the way they carry them. I see up there in the picture that I drew, that the axon of the dendrites, is it possible the dendrites do the same thing depending on the direction it's going? Oh wait, shit, never mind. I'm sorry, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I need to go to bed.
I figured you're going to answer the question.
Oh my god, I'm tired.
Okay, so just for the sake of time, because it's 8:30, I know I gotta get you guys out of here. That basically is the micro part. Okay, so remember that when you go to study for this test, you have to break it down into the micro part, which is all the stuff like the nerve, the neurons, the neuroglia, how it actually connects, the synapses, the insights, the dendrites, the axons, all of those little pieces. That's the micro piece. Then you break down the CNS piece. Because the CNS in and of itself has a lot of pieces to it. The two primary parts of the CNS are what?
Brain and spinal cord.
The brain and the spinal cord, all right? So over here to the side, right off the bat, you need to know that there's 12 pairs of cranial nerves that connect to the brain. Okay? 12 pairs of cranial nerves. So she's going to have you memorize what each of those
You
are.
don't have to know each one of them.
Good for you. All right, and then the brain then can be divided into 4 major parts. Okay, those parts are the brainstem, the cerebellum, the diencephalon, and the cerebrum. All right, I didn't have time, nor did I have room on here, but you can see now. What can we put up under the brainstem? What 3 parts make up the brainstem?
Medulla.
But go from top to bottom, because those are the kinds of questions that they're going to ask you on the test.
The middle brain, the pons, and then the medulla.
So where would be the middle brain then?
Top.
Okay, so let's look at the brainstem. Okay, so midbrain is on top. Then you have the pons, and then at the very bottom you have the medulla oblongata. I love that name. I don't know why. I don't know why, I just love the name, medulla oblongata. What is that responsible for? Because I'm sure she.
Temperament.
Medulla oblongata?
Oh, I was thinking of firewood. You go.
Medulla oblongata.
Just tell us.
Breathing.
Breathing.
It's the vital centers of our brain. The medulla oblongata is the vital centers of our brain. Alright, because it's got cardiac, respiratory, and vasomotor, which vaso means what?
Vein.
Vessel, right? So right here, this medulla oblongata, if that's gone, we gone. Okay?
Okay.
Medulla oblongata. It's the vital center of our brain. Cardiac, respiratory, and vaso. Okay? Alright. Then,
Medulla, you oblongata.
alright. Then tell me what is part of the cerebellum? Is that by itself? Is the cerebellum by itself? It doesn't have parts in it.
That's part.
Okay, tell me what the cerebellum is.
Oh, the Thor something or another, and the, not Thor, two parts of the one three.
Let me see.
Sorry, I was saying it.
Oh no. I didn't think it like that. Okay, tell me about this diencephalon. It's on page
176, 178.
178.
It is
Yeah,
white matter tracks come on the inside of the cerebellum.
just come from the sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, name sheet.
Yep. You could say the living tree or white matter. Okay, diencephalon, guys. What are the parts of the diencephalon?
Hypothalamus,
Thalamus.
the ADHD, antidiuretic hormone.
Thalamus is associated with what? Thalamus is associated for regulating what? Emotions.
Wait, what?
Okay. Okay. Sensation of the emotions occurs in the thalamus. Where do you think the hypothalamus is?
Below.
Below the thalamus. Doo! No trick question there. Hypothalamus. What is that responsible for?
Your hunger, isn't it?
Talk to me, guys.
Your sensations.
Sleep cycle, water balance, and production of ADH. Sleep, water, ADH. These are the things, guys, that you're going to need to know for this test. But if you put them in this framework, it makes it a little bit less intimidating. It kind of puts it in some kind of structure for you to figure it out. Yes, ma'am? Yeah. I just do it. Just what did they do? Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm trying to get out of my way. Okay. Cerebellum. That's responsible for movement. Let me see if I can write this better for you guys.
Cerebellum is all of our movements, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking like ballerinas and hypertrophy, all that fancy stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, let's do it 36 hours.
Are we doing this tomorrow too, by any chance?
Yeah.
No, I can't be here tomorrow because I have a class tomorrow night here already. So,
Can you go
Wednesday night, if you guys are struggling with,
Is it the first Wednesday?
Yeah, it's on the day, but this is different.
every Wednesday night for the month of February, I'm gonna be meeting on campus with my online October group. So
Which
they're
is
in the
still
same
equal with us.
place where you guys are. And I'm gonna be going over fundamental skills modules with them. I'm gonna be doing head and toe data collection, we'll be doing how to chart, we'll be doing, starting this Wednesday, we'll be doing, full catheterization, talking about oxygen delivery, some of those content like wound care and all that stuff.
That's all gonna be in there, right?
Yeah, we're actually gonna be doing hands-on, it's gonna be demonstrating, and then you guys are gonna be doing it yourselves, so, that's Wednesday from 6 to 9. Moving back. Okay, Arbor Vitae, or Vitae, says the living tree and the white matter tract.
Can they go over like the white matter and gray matter?
Those are pretty easy. White matter comes
So
from the seed.
basically, this is.
Gray matter comes from the seed.
That's right, and the gray matter is what's responsible for all
White
the
comes from the myelin sheath?
Mhm. White is myelin. Sorry, what were you saying? White is myelin, Michelle.
No, it's because of white color. Have a green color.
Is movement.
That's gonna help us big with our data collection, because now, as soon as wants us to know the data collection and be able to present it, all we become that Wednesday class, we're struggling with a whole lot of data collection, so the time comes for us to present it, like in the 10, 11, 12, I'll be like,
I
ready.
remember you got that.
Huh? It
That
starts
starts on
tomorrow.
Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday, I'm sorry.
Okay, Tuesday I have my June class, and they're ahead of me guys, so they'll just confuse you. They're doing diseases and disorders right now, so. All right, cerebrum. We've got how many lobes in our cerebrum?
Two.
Well, we have two sides, the right
And the left.
and the left.
Are those lobes?
Left and right.
Mm-hmm.
And this part that connects them is called the what? Corpus.
Corpus callosum.
Yeah.
Great.
Corpus callosum.
These guys have a big colossal. The guys have a big colossal, and then the girls have a little one. That's why you guys can cross over your brains so easily and find stuff.
Literally.
Us guys can't do it.
Literally, we all start off, men and women all start off equally, but already as soon as the sex of the baby is determined, when all the sex cells come in, literally chemicals wash over the brain. So they already start off brain damage, guys. You guys already start off brain damage.
Sure.
And it creates a wide gap between the right and the left side. That's why men tend to be so linear in their thinking. They have to fix a problem and they go from one, they say that it's like waffles. They can only think of whatever is in this square, you know? And in order to go to a different square, they have to literally leave that square in their brain and go over to the next square. And women, we think like spaghetti because the right and the left brain the corpus callosum is so small that we cross over all the time. So I may say tonight, hey, Haley made an A today. Oh, and by the way, Haley has this and this going on, and we have dinner with Tara's parents. What does Tara have to do with Haley making an A? Well, to me, it's all connected, right? But for him, he's thinking Haley kid. He's in his Haley kid square, you know? And so for him to get out of his Haley kid square and come all the way over into dinner with Tara's parents, he has to bridge this wide divide, okay? That's typically how it works. So corpus callosum is what divides the left from the right, and then the lobes. No, the left and the right are not the lobes. We have a frontal lobe, we have a parietal lobe, a temporal lobe, a occipital lobe. Okay?
There's only 4 lobes, right?
Yes. So we have, what did we say? We have a frontal lobe. That's the executive functions. That's what makes us think and process logically. We have the temporal. Those are time oriented. We have parietal and occipital. Occipital is in the back. Occipital. That's like eyesight.
That's where, ocular, occipital.
Parietal, I don't remember off the top of my head. What is parietal responsible for, guys?
We're gonna try and do it ASAP. Sorry, Cindy, go ahead.
Parietal, oh, you guys don't have this in here? Parietal. If you don't tell you what it's responsible for, then don't worry about it.
Now, wait. Sure.
I'm looking. It doesn't, it just tells you the different types of. Okay. We're good. Alright, so now we're talking about the spinal cord. Oh, something that I need you to know about too is that around the brain and around the spinal cord, you've got layers. I'm running out of color, but you've got layers, okay? So around here you have 3 layers. The outer layer is, by the way, mater, M-A-T-E-R. M-A-T-E-R is really, it translates as into mother, all right?
Yeah.
All right, so on the outside of the arm, you have the spinal cord, you have the brain, all right? If you remember it this way, remember brain pad, okay?
Okay.
Pia mater, arachnoid, and dura mater. Starting from your brain, the first covering, the innermost covering is called the pia mater. Pia means peaceful, mater means mother. So the way I remember it is that the peaceful mother or the pia mater has to be next to that brain because it has to be very gentle because that's the brain.
What is this?
This is the coverings. These are the meninges
Meninges is the coverings for the brain.
and the spinal cord. So if you remember brain pad, it will help you because starting from your brain, the first layer right next to your brain is the peaceful mother or the pia mater, all right? And then in between, the next layer is called the arachnoid layer because it's very lacy and spongy and fibrous and lots of holes in it so that it will absorb, kind of like that shock absorber type of thing, okay? And then the outside, dura means tough and mater means mother. So I think of it as the tough mother. Like, what? You'll mess with my kid? No, you're not. You come through me first, right? Now, all of us that are mothers understand exactly what I mean. It's that mama bear. That's the first line of this defense, is the dura mater. Then you have the arachnoid mater, and then the very next one, or the ones that's closest to the brain, is the pia mater. And it has to be peaceful because it's right next to the brain. So your meninges, let me call this meninges. Remember brain pad.
Okay, got
Meninges, remember brain pad because they cover your brain.
it. Dura mater, arachnoid, pia mater.
So brain is just protection. That's all it is. It's 3 layers of protection. Our brain is so important that we have protection in the way of our meninges. We've got 3 layers of meninges. And we also have that whole blood-brain barrier that says only certain chemicals are going to be able to enter into this brain. All of you other chemicals, all you other little microbes, I've got you so tight. That filter is so tight and so complex that so many germs are filtered out. Okay? The only problem is that it works against us too, because if we do get some kind of germ like staph or encephalitis, if we get like staphylococcus and now it's in our brain, now we have encephalitis. And what makes that so dangerous is, what does it filter out? All kinds of chemicals. What are antibiotics?
chemicals. So there's only certain chemicals that we can give that will actually go through that blood-brain barrier.
Right.
So once you get encephalitis, that's why so many people die from it if it's bacteria or bacterial encephalitis, because there's not very many antibiotics that will go through that blood-brain barrier. And really, what you need to understand is just that it is it's like a filter. The blood-brain barrier is like a filter, and it's got such tiny holes, such a tight, compact network of fibers that it just doesn't allow very many chemicals to get through. Unfortunately, the one chemical that it does allow through is alcohol. That is why alcohol is so bad for the fetus, because it goes through that blood-brain barrier, and that'll go right to the fetus's brain as it's developing. And that's where you get fetal alcohol syndrome from, is because alcohol goes straight past the blood-brain barrier right into the brain. All right. That is as far as I can get. Let me just ask you a few questions. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do more, but okay, let me just go over a few questions real quick. All right. All right. The vital centers of the brain. What is it?
Vital centers of the brain.
Medulla oblongata.
Oh, yeah.
Vital centers of the brain. Medulla oblongata. Brainstem starts with the pons, midbrain, medulla oblongata.
I thought you said midbrain.
Pons, it should be pons midbrain. Sorry.
Pons and then midbrain, right? Midbrain's in the middle, pons is first. Okay.
Pons midbrain. Midbrain middle.
Midbrain middle.
Medulla oblongata. Pons, midbrain, medulla oblongata. And guys, I'm sorry that I've given you 2 wrong pieces of information so far. I honestly got a call from Mike at 12 o'clock today asking me if I would do this tonight. And I work till 5. So even though I know this, I don't always know it to break down every little tiny piece to you guys. So I apologize. All right. Association of emotion is associated with what? Thalamus. The hypothalamus is associated with sleep, water, and ADHD. That's right. Not ADHD, just ADHD. Oh, I thought you said ADHD. Okay, sorry. Coordination of muscle movement occurs where? Cerebellum. The right and left sides of the cerebrum are separated by what?
Corpus callosum.
Corpus callosum. Okay. If there was a problem in the occipital lobe, what would it affect? Eyesight. Okay. I need you to write down gyri and sulci. Gyri. Gyri are the ridges. Sulci are the grooves. But you need to write that down so you know.
Gyri, the high school sulci.
S-U-L.
Oh, okay, you guys already know that. All right.
Say it again.
S-U-L-C-I.
S-U-L-C-I, those are the grooves, and the gyri are the ridges. You don't remember this from your PhD?
Yes, baby. I just wanted to write it down for this test. That's what I'm saying. I just want to make sure we figure out.
I know.
Use it. I'm
I
just saying.
know. See, that's where I learned it from, was typing up these papers for them. Okay, so, meninges, what do they cover?
It's in a different wall. Brain and spinal cord.
Brain and spinal cord, 3 layers, what are they? From the brain.
Brain got P, A, and D.
Okay, P is the pia, A is the arachnoid.
Dora mother.
Dora mother, that tough mother. Alright. Well, alright. I've gotten you through 3
need to learn. I got you through the micro pieces, and I got you through the CNS piece. So now all you have left really is the peripheral nervous system to learn on your own.
With the spinal cord, is it all we need to know is the meninges and the 31 pairs of
Yep.
nerves?
Yep. You need to know that it's a cord, okay, and all the nerves run down this cord, and the little end pieces come out into, I think it's called Aquinas something, which really equals out to horsetail. Because it's just like one of these strip things that are on the wall, you know, they cover all the electrical wires, and then at the bottom they have the exposed wires.
Right.
That's just what our spinal column is.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, so then again, it's all a lot of questions about efferent, afferent, sensory, motor, glias, all the different types of glias.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, remember I told you that you need to know all the different layers of from the interior to the exterior of the nerve.
Right.
Endo, peri, epineurum. Right. Need to know what structures are part of the diencephalon, what structures make up the brainstem, what structures make up the cerebrum. Okay. Okay. Auditory is temporal. Let's put that down there. I think I put time and it's also auditory.
Right. I remember that. I remember when Ms. Beck was talking about that today, because it's right there next to that portion of the brain. So.
Yeah, exactly. Temporal, auditory.
Oh, I know what memory is.
Yeah. Make sure that you really go over the postganglionic neurons, the preganglionic neurons. She probably hasn't gone over that with you, or if she has, she'll probably go over it with you tomorrow with this peripheral nervous system, because that's all part of that autonomic nervous system.
Right.
Right?
I remember reading about it.
So make sure that you guys pay extra attention to that when she goes over it, and also pay extra attention to the different types of neurotransmitters, like things like, skip over it. Like the neurotransmitter that acts as a natural painkiller. You guys know that.
Endorphins.
Endorphins, yeah. That type of thing. Okay. Let's see what else I can help you with.
Natural warfare.
Okay. Know all the parts of the nervous system so that you also know that the nervous system has the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system, and don't forget that you already learned about the senses. Okay, the senses, although you studied it when you studied skin,
Right.
senses are really part of the nervous system.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay. Don't forget
So
that.
all the localized complex senses and the generalized senses that are going on, like with your skin and pressure and temperature and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so need to know what inner neurons are. Remember, the inner neurons are the connectors. Okay?
Right.
The connectors, the translators. Okay? Know what nodes around the A are.
Okay.
So spaces in between the sheets of
Mm-hmm.
sheets
You got
on
it.
the axon.
Okay.
And know about myelinated bundles of axons in the central nervous system. Need to know.
She talked about that today.
Yeah. Know what the definition of a nerve is, that it's a group of axons.
That's important.
Yeah,
So,
a nerve is a group of axons. A nerve impulse is action potential.
axons. See
The
that
nerve
again?
impulse is what?
Action potential
Say that again, a nerve impulse?
is called action potential. Because remember, it's that nerve impulse that causes the action of the polarization and depolarization.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's called nerve impulse as an action potential.
Yeah, I got it.
Because it's got potential there. Alright. Make sure that you know about the cerebellum. Things like it has, it's the second largest part of the brain.
Right.
It lies under the occipital lobe.
Right.
Okay?
Biggest is the brain, right?
Yes.
Okay. Know what the cerebral cortex and the basal ganglia are?
Say that again?
Cerebral
Cortex.
cortex and basal ganglia. Okay. Remember that you've got 31 pairs of spinal cord, 12 pairs of cranial nerves. If they ask you for a total of both, it's 43.
43.
Separated, it's 31 spinal, 12 cranial.
Got
Okay? Because they're going to be tricky. You know that they can say how many cranial nerves, how many pairs of spinal nerves, how many are in total. That's 3 different questions from one piece of information.
Right.
Okay. Real quick, there's a lot of potential true and false. But the true and false literally come from all that information that's covered in the multiple choice, okay? So if you get to the true and false and you don't know, hint is always go back and read the multiple. Do you have the ability to go back and look?
Yeah.
Always go back and read that multiple choice to see if you can find any clues in the multiple choice. Now here's the deal. If you screw up the multiple choice, you're really screwed because that means you're going to screw up the true false. But if you do it right, you will. But these are questions like the ridges in the cerebrum are called sulci. True or false? No, those are called gyri, right? Okay. The grooves are called what? Okay. Think of that. Oh my gosh. There's a potential of like 200 questions in the test bank. So just remember things like dendrite, axon, astrocyte. Those sound like to me really good matching. Dendrite, axon, astrocyte, microglia, Schwann cell, interneuron, synaptic knob, synaptic cleft. Oligodendrocytes. Sound familiar to what we've been talking about?
Yep.
Okay. Then the other parts, stuff like brainstem, hypothalamus, which part of the brain does it go to? What does it do? Temporal lobe, occipital lobe, spinal cord, pia mater, dura mater, cranial nerves. Okay. Alright, I have given you guys as much as I can give you in the time frame. That was 2 hours, bada bang, bada boom. Did you learn anything?
Yes.
Please.
Yeah.